Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're getting into something a bit different. Not regulations, not economic data, but something really specific and incredibly important. How to manage snake hazards on a work site.
That's right, and this isn't about fear-mongering.
No, not at all.
It's about taking safety protocols that can seem, a bit abstract and turning them into knowledge you can use immediately.
So our mission for this deep dive is to look at the source material, which really breaks this down into three pillars. You've got prevention, personal protection, and then the emergency response.
And what's so clear from the sources is that the most powerful tool by far is prevention. It's about making your site a place snakes just don't want to be.
So let's start there. Let's unpack prevention, because when you look at the data, it all seems to hinge on one single idea.
It does. It all comes down to site control. I mean, the sources suggest you can cut your risk by something like 80% before anyone even puts on a pair of boots.
80%, that's huge.
It is. It starts with what the sources call basic housekeeping, but, on an industrial scale.
And the number one thing snakes are looking for is shelter, right? A place to hide.
Exactly. They need to regulate their temperature, so they're looking for clutter. Piles of rocks, scrap wood, old metal, any kind of rubbish and debris.
So any junk pile is basically a five-star hotel for a snake.
It's a perfect microhabitat. They can hide, they can regulate their temperature, and they can ambush prey. It's everything they want.
Okay, so what's the actionable fix for things you can't just throw away, like lumber or piping?
Elevation. It's a simple mandate in the sources. Get it up off the ground, put it on racks.
How high do you need to go?
High enough that a snake can't just, slip underneath and get that cool, dark contact with the earth. But just as important, it gives you visibility.
Ah, so you can see what's under there before you go near it?
Precisely. It interrupts their hiding spots and lets your team do a quick visual check.
Now, if we connect the dots, controlling the habitat isn't just about clutter. It's about the whole food chain, isn't it?
Absolutely. This is what's fascinating. Site cleanliness connects directly to predator management. If you're managing your food waste, if you have a robust pest control program, you're getting rid of the rodents.
Which is the snake's dinner.
It's their primary food source. So you're removing the main reason for them to even be on your site. It's a systemic approach. You're not just dealing with the snake, you're dealing with the snake's entire economy.
Okay, so we've taken away the shelter and the food. Now let's talk about the natural surroundings, vegetation and water.
Right. For vegetation, you need a clear perimeter. The sources are specific. Trim grass, weeds, bushes, keep it all low to the ground.
And the reason for that is kind of counterintuitive, right?
It is. You'd think they'd love open space, but they don't. Snakes feel exposed. They feel vulnerable in low-cut open areas. They'd much rather stick to cover, so a clear perimeter is a huge deterrent. They just won't want to cross it.
It forces them out into the open. Okay, and what about water? We see leaky taps or little puddles all the time.
And we overlook them. But to a snake, that's an oasis. They are strongly attracted to cool, moist environments.
Yeah.
So a leaky pipe, an area with bad drainage, that's creating the ideal microclimate they're actively searching for. Fixing a leak isn't just plumbing, it's snake prevention.
For those really high-risk sites, let's talk about physical barriers, the next level up. So beyond ceiling cracks in buildings, what about actual snake fencing? What makes it different from a regular fence?
Three things.
Mm-hmm.
The material, the depth, and the angle. The material has to be a fine mesh, not chain link.
Because they can just climb or slip through chain link.
Easily. Then the depth, this is crucial, has to be buried a few inches into the ground.
Why is that so important?
Because they will test it. They'll slither along the bottom looking for a gap. If it just rests on the soil, they'll find a way under. Burying it denies them that entry point.
Okay, and the angle.
The sources say it should be angled outward, away from the site.
Ah, so if they try to climb it.
It pushes them back in a way. It just makes it that much harder to navigate.
That's a fantastic deep dive into prevention. But that's all on the site manager. Let's switch gears to the individual worker. If a snake does get through, what then?
Right. Now, we shift from managing the environment to managing, well, our own behavior and our equipment. This is about personal protection and situational awareness.
PPE. If prevention is line one, this is the last line of defense.
Exactly. And it starts with footwear because the data is just so clear.
The lower leg and ankle, that's the strike zone.
Overwhelmingly. So the minimum requirement is sturdy high boots, at least 10 inches tall. But if you're working in tall grass or brush,
You need to layer up.
you do. The sources strongly recommend puncture-proof gaiters or chaps, something made of heavy leather or Kevlar. It's about buying you vital milliseconds of resistance against a strike.
And you have to extend that protection to your hands.
Oh, absolutely. If you are manually handling anything,
Yeah.
debris, logs, piping thick leather, or Kevlar gloves are non-negotiable.
Which brings us to the human element. The number one rule we all know. Never blindly reach into a space you can't see, but people still do it. Why?
It's habit, efficiency. We're focused on the task, so we just reach or step without thinking. It's muscle memory.
So the protocol has to break that habit.
It does. The rule has to be absolute. If you can't see where your hand or foot is going, you don't put it there, period.
The sources have this brilliant, simple technique for moving things like logs or sheets of metal.
Yes, this is such a smart piece of advice.
Instead of just lifting it straight up, you use a tool or a hook.
And you lift the far side, tilting it toward you.
How does that help?
It's simple physics. The object itself becomes a shield, a physical barrier. So if there is a snake under there, it's exposed on the far side, away from you. It gives you that critical space and time to see it and back away.
That's fantastic, making the object protect you. Okay, another subtle point mentioned is vibrations.
Right. Snakes don't really hear in the way we do. They feel vibrations through the ground.
So making a bit of noise is actually a good thing.
It can be. Heavy footsteps, even just talking with a coworker. You're sending out seismic signals. You're announcing your presence. It gives the snake a chance to move away before you stumble right on top of it.
So you're less likely to surprise it. And that awareness also has to be tied to the time of day and the weather.
Hugely important. Vigilance needs to go way up in warm weather, and especially at night.
Why at night?
Many venomous snakes are crepuscular or nocturnal. They hide from the midday heat and become very active as it cools down. A path that was clear at 3 p.m. might have a snake cross in at 8 p.m.
Okay, so despite all of this, you see a snake. What's the protocol? The immediate mandatory response?
Stop. Just stop work and back away, slowly.
No sudden movements?
None. Here's the key thing. The sources are really clear that most bites happen because people provoke the snake. They try to move it or catch it or kill it.
So the goal is total non-confrontation.
Total. You report it to your supervisor, you alert other workers, and you call a professional certified snake catcher. Under no circumstances does anyone on site try to handle it themselves.
Right. That's the difference between an alert and an emergency. Which brings us to the third and most critical phase. Emergency response. A bite has occurred.
And the first rule is you treat every bite as an emergency. Assume it's venomous until a doctor tells you otherwise.
So what's step one?
Call for help immediately. 911 or your local equivalent. And notify a supervisor. Time is everything.
Once that call is made, the goal shifts. It's all about slowing the venom spread.
Yes. First, get the victim safely away from the snake. Then, the single most important action is stillness.
Stillness.
Absolute stillness. Any movement increases the heart rate, boosts circulation, and just pushes that venom through the system faster. Keep the victim as calm and still as you possibly can. Help should come to them. They should not walk to help.
And the wound itself, how should you position it?
The main goal is just a neutral, comfortable position. The old advice has changed a bit, but generally the idea is to keep it still, and if you can, below the level of the heart.
While you're waiting for help, there are a couple of critical things you need to do, and do fast.
Yes. Before the swelling starts, you have to remove any rings, watches, bracelets, even tight clothing from the bitten limb.
Because that swelling can be fast and severe.
Incredibly fast. And those items can become tourniquets, which causes massive additional damage.
And then basic wound care.
Very basic. Gently clean it with soap and water. Cover it with a clean, dry dressing. And here's a key tip. If you see swelling or discoloration starting, mark the edge of it on a skin with a pen and note the time.
So the paramedics and doctors can see how fast it's progressing.
Exactly. But this brings us to what might be the most critical point in the entire deep dive. The point where your specific local knowledge is not just important, it's life or death.
We're talking about the controversy around pressure immobilization bandaging, PIB.
We are. This is a first aid technique that could save a life in one part of the world and cost a limb in another.
Okay, so explain what it is.
PIB is where you tightly bandage the entire limb to compress the lymphatic system. It slows the venom from reaching your central circulation. It's highly effective and standard practice for certain snakes.
Like the ones in Australia, which often have neurotoxic venom.
Precisely. For neurotoxins that cause paralysis, slowing them down is key. But, and this is a crucial warning from the sources, if you apply that same technique to a bite from, say, a pit viper in North America,
Which has a different kind of venom.
a completely different kind, hemotoxic, cytotoxic, it destroys tissue locally. If you use PIB on that kind of bite, you're not helping. You're concentrating that tissue-destroying venom in one spot, which can dramatically worsen the damage.
You could lose the limb.
You could. So the use of PIB is explicitly not recommended for those snakes.
Wow. So what does this all mean for someone on the ground?
It means your first aid protocol must be tailored to your specific region. A generic, one-size-fits-all snakebite kit could give you fatally bad advice. You have to know the local snakes and the local protocol.
That is invaluable information. So to wrap up the emergency response, let's run through the big what not to do list, the stuff from the movies.
Yes. Number one, as we just discussed, do not apply a tourniquet, ever.
What about cutting the wound and sucking out the venom? The old classic.
A terrible, terrible idea. You're just causing more tissue damage, introducing infection, and you remove a meaningless amount of venom. Do not do it.
Applying ice.
No. Don't apply ice, don't immerse it in water. It can make tissue damage worse.
And no medication. No whiskey from the flask.
Definitely no alcohol.
Yeah.
And don't take painkillers like aspirin or ibuprofen because they can thin the blood and increase bleeding. Just wait for the professionals.
Okay, let's pull all this together. When you look back at all the source material, what are the one or two most critical, maybe counterintuitive takeaways?
For me, two things. First, just how powerful basic site control is. It costs nothing to remove clutter, and it's probably the most effective thing you can do.
The simple stuff works best.
It really does. And second, after a bite, the most powerful medical tool you have before the antivenom arrives is calm, absolute stillness. Movement is the enemy.
And that PIB controversy just hammers home the point. You can't rely on generic safety plans. You need a clear, practiced emergency plan that is tailored specifically for where you are in the world.
That's the whole point of this. It's about turning that general safety knowledge into specific life-saving action.
Exactly. So here's the final thought we want to leave you with. Given that massive difference in first aid PIB versus no PIB, the single most important thing you can do right now is not to memorize a generic snakebite plan. It's to find out the specific type of venomous snake common in your geographic area and learn the exact corresponding first aid protocol for that snake.
Find your local guide. Know it by heart. Be informed. Be safe.
That's all the time we have for this deep dive. We'll see you next time.